people. My people. Singing, dancing, praying, thinking, talking about freedom, working, building America into the most powerful nation in the world. Cotton, sugar, indigo, iron, coal, peanuts, steel, railroad, you name it. The foundation of the United States rests on the sweat of my people.
Tell it.
And in addition to working and sweating, don't ever forget that my people fought and died in every war. Every enemy of the USA has had to face my people on the front line. Yes, and when Teddy Roosevelt led his Rough Riders up San Juan Hill in the Spanish-American War, for the first time, my people returned home decorated heroes.
All right. Tell it.
They had won another war for Uncle Sam. Now, a decorated hero is a symbol of glamour.
Right.
And glamorous heroes are attractive. And so, being attractive, some of them attracted other men's women. And on the other hand, some heroes returned home to find that while they were gone, somebody had attracted their woman. And right after that came the blues.
Morning, everybody. I hope that doesn't get taken down. I think it's an important little intro to an important concert that Ellington presents. This was part of a Chicago event celebrating Black progress in the 20th century. And it kind of can move you to tears at times. Some of the tracks on here, King Fit, The Battle of Alabama, about Martin Luther King, and What Color is Virtue? Roses are red, violets are blue. What color is virtue, he asks. He's talking about my people and working, and he's talking about, obviously, Black service in the military. Many of the things I've brought up before about the Black experience and how it all kind of results in the blues, and the blues is kind of a medication for all of that. This is a record I got not that long ago on the Contact label, which was Bob Thiele from Impulse. And I think he does this while he's at Impulse. And there's only 6 or 7 titles on the Contact label, and they're very similar to Impulse in terms of the gatefold, the nice thick spines with the color that's on all of them. It's a nice label with, like I said, only 6 or 7 titles. A couple of Earl Hines, a Shelly Manne. I have another one right here, actually. But I'm showing you this because I just got it and it was kind of moving me listening to it. And in light of the conversation around the last episode and the outrage exhibited by the other fellow talking about my channel and how he didn't like a lot of my views, my viewpoints, I've heard a lot of differing things about all that. I want to put that all behind me. I wish him nothing but the best. I'm just going to attribute it to a misunderstanding, and we're welcome to chat, man. You want to ever message me, I'd be happy to sit and to chew the fat a little bit with you, because I think we probably share more in common, at least from a lot of the comments. People think we have more in common than this division between us would seem to illustrate. Again, it kind of took me out of left field. I got some messages from people saying this guy is talking smack about me. I went and checked it. I was just like, I don't understand why. And I still don't really understand what you'd have issue with what I was saying, especially when it sounds like he talks about race and issues as well at times. But again, I want to move on from that. However, I do want to address something else real quick. There's a fellow that's been commenting on my channel for probably 2 years, sporadically. And he's rather derogatory and insulting and always is criticizing my speaking about race. And he says I'm perpetuating racism and I'm a racist. And there's no quantifying the message I'm speaking. He's just saying that I'm validating old stereotypes and cliches and that there's no race in the human genetics. Which, duh. I mean, I say it all the time, we're human earthlings. I think I make it pretty clear that I realize race is a construct of the societies that we've lived in, and they're by no means a reality. They're a construct of society. Society is but a slice of reality. However, in this society, race has been a construct of division. It has separated the masses. It's allowed the poor to feel like they're doing better than the really poor. It's a constant, real issue. And he jumped in on the conversation the other day again, calling us both racist, honestly, which I thought was interesting. Said I was like a genocide or something. And I'm just curious what you guys have to say about this, man. I don't ever speak out of a place of hate. And for me, words aren't powerful. It's the emotion behind words that matter. A dog doesn't care the words you speak. He cares about the emotion that you speak with. I mean, you could curse a dog out in a soft, gentle tone, and the dog's like, I love you. You know what I mean? And you can say, I love you to a dog in a yelling, gruff voice, and he or she's still going to cower. It's the emotional context of what you speak that has power and value. Words are empty. They mean little. And I think we need to judge things and words and speech more by the undercurrent of emotional positioning and more by where someone's coming from. When someone speaks from hate, they can say something in a more correct way that's still filled with evil and the darkness of fear and hatred. And a person can say something else in joking or in jest that's filled with love and brothership. You know what I mean? Brotherhood. And today's group of woke want to jump on that and be like, oh my God, you're being a racist. And I am trying to measure it because I don't want, obviously, to have my channel threatened by this in any way. This channel is important to me, and it's a valuable expression of myself and a part of my life at this point, for sure. And so I think I come across from a place of positivity and trying to value the positive determination and overcoming nature of the Black experience and comparing it to that biblical experience. And I've never once had an African American, Black American criticize or complain what I have to say about the Black experience. It's always some kind of, one of the extremes of the American experience gets uncomfortable with what I say. And I think he is rather derogatory because it's like, he's told me a dozen times over the last 2 years that race has no genetic value. I know. I mean, I studied geography and history my whole life. I got the world tattooed on my arm. The migration of humans is a pretty clear and present piece of evidence. You know, I mean, the integration of the human experience and the raping and pillaging of soldiers as armies marched across continents integrated us beyond any form of separation. And it was over centuries of isolation where we developed some different characteristics and traits, but genetically we are all identical. There is no division. But to comment on the history that happened requires you address, in reality, in real terms, that experience so you can value and experience this art form. No one's trying to glorify the racial divide. No one's here trying to preach that race has to be a concept that needs to be continued ad infinitum. That's not the point of this channel. The point of the channel is to say, when a group is oppressed, it gives them a moral code. It gives them a sense and a place of value to speak for their group of people, which Ellington does throughout this album, entitled My People. And so I challenge this fella. I'm not going to mention names. That's not how I like to operate. Listen to this record and listen to what Ellington has to say about his people. Read some Black literature. To say Martin Luther King wasn't speaking for blacks is incorrect. to address history without sugarcoating shouldn't take balls. It should just be the honest reflection of the story as it's written down. And so listening to this actually gave me some, I want to say clarity, but that's not really the right word, but it certainly kind of confirmed in my mind that what I'm saying is okay. And that Ellington, who was one of the greatest ambassadors of this nation, artistically, and centuries from now, he will be remembered as one of the great Americans to ever exist, along with guys like Louis Armstrong. This guy's an institution of the American construct. He's such an important piece. And to diminish all this history by trying to whitewash the words we speak today and act like none of this happened, I don't think I can abide it. And so I guess I kind of want your guys' 2 cents on that issue. How do you feel about it? Where do you guys stand? Do you feel offended by what I say on a regular basis? Or do you feel like I'm challenging convention by speaking the way I speak? And again, it comes from a place of love and admiration. It comes from a place of having once been a minority in a community where I got beat up every day in school and felt what oppression felt like and persecution felt like. They thought of my parents as being in a cult when they were just kind of evangelical holy rollers. And we were in a very traditional Mennonite region. And so my parents were extremists in the eyes of all these people. And I got beat up every day in school, 5th, 6th, 7th grade. Started lifting weights and getting my own little strength up and my feeling of independence. Of course, I ran as far away from the church as I could. But I've always kind of had an ear of empathy for those who struggle. Because I know how it feels to live in fear. I know how it feels to cry before you have to go to school in the morning. I don't really want to go, Mom. I'd rather lay here with my dog on the floor, trembling in tears. I don't want to get beat up again. And people talk about bullying. Bullying back in the day, I think, was way worse than it is today. You got teased on the internet. I mean, I had people hold me down, kick me, punch me, spit in my face. They'd have the girls come over and spit on me. I went through some real... I mean, I wasn't incarcerated and sent off to a gulag, and I wasn't put in a slave camp, and I wasn't, treated like the Japanese during the Second World War where I was interned in the camps. I just got the shit kicked out of me a lot and teased, and no one would even be my ally because there was such a tight-knit community. And me and my brother, David especially, we went through some real tough years. And it was tough on my parents having to witness it and feel kind of complicit in it as well. But they were doing what they believed in from their heart spiritually as the Christians that they are, or were, in my case of my father who passed, R.I.P. But I've always had a sympathy and an empathy for people who struggle. I've been through some waters where it was tough, but it created a character and a personality in me. I wouldn't be the person I was had I not gone through that. I would never have became an empathetic person for all of those people in the world who struggle from any race, religion, culture, nation, if I had not been through some tough waters myself. And I think that's an important piece of reflection. I think it's an important piece to understand. I'm not just speaking to be inflammatory. I turned to writing songs myself as a young boy, as a place to dream about how I wish things were. So I get it. I used to write songs thinking about what paradise would be from my place right now in this world. Loved, wanted, community, interaction, acceptance. You know what I mean? Fellowship of a woman. All those things felt very foreign to me when I was 12, 13, 14, 15, and just an outsider. And I slowly worked my way into the community. By the time I was in 10th, 11th, 12th grade, we moved one town over, about 15 miles. And I took a very different approach in school as a 10th grader. Just far more Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, growing my hair out, F my parents. And they were willing to accept me more as this kind of rebellious rocker that was, even at that point, very flexible in the different cliques that I could kind of hang out with and be comfortable with. From the nerdy people to the chess club to the musicians to the sport jocks, I kind of could be in all those circles at that point, because I had been through enough and I had identified enough with geography and history and art and music and sport. All those things became part of who I was, that I became, I wouldn't say a popular kid, but when I left for America as a senior, I didn't do my 12th grade in Canada. I did my 12th grade in America. But when I went back for Canadian graduation to graduate, see my friends, they actually recognized me from the stage as one of the 3 best things about the class of 1990. And remember, I didn't do my senior year there. So it felt quite redeeming in a way to have them feel me as a part of them and being part of the community. But it didn't come without a price, and it drove me and my parents apart for a number of years, which of course we reconnected that fabric as I got into my later 20s. But it took some time, and it took some ability on my part to be empathetic with my parents' belief system and how, as immigrants from Holland and England after the Second World War, they linked on to religion as a way to find a place of belonging themselves. And so my understanding of their experience helped me kind of come back to them. So I guess just what I'm trying to ask is, I can keep it purely jazz, but so many people have commented over the years, especially Europeans and people internationally, that they value me talking about the American experience and giving some background color to the conditions that were in America at the time of individual pieces were being made. America in the 50s is quite different from America in the 30s. America in the 80s is quite different from America in 2010. Decades had different propulsions, different senses of experience and belonging and responsibility and duty. The wars were a large factor. So to hear Ellington speaking about the war and the blues and how he felt with my people, it's just like, I'm just echoing what they already say. Just reminding people of the context that it takes place in, and in that hoping to illuminate why the music has the power it has. I think that's the important thing. The music is as powerful as it is because of the blues, because of the simplicity of the form to just allow my soul to express. I mean, that's the magic of this art form, jazz. And if your soul has some anger or pain, sorrow to express, if the empathetic ear is listening, we can perceive that, and it can stir us emotionally and make your hair stand on end at times if you're in the right place. If you're willing to embrace and recognize the history. Without it, it's just notes. It's just music. It's just great playing. This fly is being very persistent. So I guess he's a bit like that fella on the channel who's always talking to me like I'm some racist, because I'm recognizing the racial history of this country. And I'm in no way perpetuating race and saying it needs to continue. I think I've done more in my lifetime than most to help eradicate those lines. That DJ night I had for 5 years, where as a white boy from Canada, I was playing for a room full of black folks, 200-300 people every Friday for 5 years. I mean, and the white people of that area in a rich neighborhood in Minneapolis started to come in and concentrate, and they integrated. And they became comfortable with each other. And it wasn't so much the blacks, because the blacks already work with white people and are already a minority everywhere they are. They already have to have whites in their lives. It's a lot of white folks who don't have black in their lives, but when they start to experience that black and interact with those people and see how people are just people, and they have similar stories and similar things to tell, that it was incredible to see the friendships and the kinships and how integrated that neighborhood became in terms of the social values and the bars and the clubs. And I felt like I was partly behind that. And as part of it gives me some of the stimulus to speak on this channel about it. I have thousands of black friends and acquaintances in the Twin Cities still who watch the channel and follow my DJing and want to know where my next gigs are going to be, and who have always empowered me to speak on what I say and have often found great value in it. And so, again, it's not about me here. I'm not trying to put myself on some pedestal by any means. The music's what belongs on the pedestal. I just want to be a vehicle to speak about this music. And so, again, it's getting more and more complicated to talk about race, apparently. And it's more and more complicated to talk about a divide, even though the divide becomes more and more prevalent. And it's pretty convenient for the elite to isolate us into our camps and to say, no more talking. No more discussing that. And the divide remains. Race is still a factor. And in spite of the genetics that will obviously speak for themselves, and you have to be kind of an idiot to not know that, I still think it's important to recognize, just as important as to talk about the children of Israel walking into the holy promised land, coming out of captivity, whether it was Babylon or Egypt or the battles with the Philistines. We talk about the Jews and the Israelites, and we don't seem to feel any kind of way about making that difference. Maybe it's a guilt thing, maybe it's a shame thing that makes us want to sweep it under the carpet. Let's not talk about that. I know the Japanese on some levels have done that with the war to some degree, changing the narrative. So again, from the bottom of my heart, if anyone's offended by what I say, I apologize. It's never my intent. My intent is never to be even challenging or any way offensive. I just want to illuminate how much joy the music brings me, how much power I feel in it, how electric it is. And that's what I want to share with people. I'm like, this stuff moves me. It excites me. It's revelatory, the power of the art. And that made me want to have the channel. Like, oh yeah, this stuff is exciting. No matter how tough things got, they still found a way to celebrate and to be joyful and dance and to celebrate in spite of the struggle. In fact, in spite of the struggle, the celebration becomes almost greater because you need to kind of not focus on that negative all the time. So that's all we're going to talk about today. So give me your 2 cents. I hope everyone's understanding where I'm coming from. And from the bottom of my heart, if you're offended by what I say, I apologize. There's certainly never any intent to anyone to apologize. Whether it's that guy who always comments, whether it's the guy from another channel, my intent is never to be offensive. My intent is to talk about the power and the magic of jazz and why it's important and why it has value and how it can minister to you if you're open and perceptive to what I'm saying. It's not me that's got the power. It's the art that speaks. It's the art that has all that message in it. And it mirrors and shadows that biblical narrative. You take away a group of people's freedom, you give them the right to talk about what freedom is. That's it. It's not some kind of magical code. It's not some mystery. And it's not tied up in skin color and DNA. You know what I mean? It could be white on white, black on black. You oppress someone. I mean, white Canadians oppressed me as a fellow white Canadian because of my parents' religious beliefs. Am I going to not talk about that because I don't want to offend? I mean, reality is what it is. And let's hope we get to a place in the coming centuries where race is but a footnote, an asterisk on the history books. But we're not there. I mean, the racial disparity in prison, the racial disparity in how young black men die, the racial disparity in poverty, the racial disparity in COVID. There's so many factors that explicitly illustrate how great the racial divide is in this country still. And the goal of this channel is to provide unity, not divide. And I feel like 99% of the people who watch this channel, that's what they take away from it. It's supposed to be 97 here today, and it's 11 o'clock or so, and it's already getting to the point where the sweat's accumulating and the old man wrinkle. So I want to leave it at that. Y'all be blessed. Y'all be safe. Let's just all say a prayer for each other and hope that we can find more empathy in our hearts, more tolerance towards each other. And again, that goes out to the people who, in the YouTube world, who have issue with what I do. That's not my intent. My intent is to make a better America, for all of us, and to recognize the power of the history and why the music matters. So y'all be safe. We'll talk to y'all soon. Peace.